Welcome to the Romanian I channel and my first impressions of Hearts of Iron 4's DLC, Death for Dishonor, a DLC focused on reworking and improving the experience the player can have with the following four countries: Romania, Hungary, Yugoslavia, and the Czech Republic. I've seen it mentioned that they are Balkan countries, but technically speaking, Czechoslovakia is a Central European country. Now, before I go any further, I would like to state the standard disclaimer applies. The developer gave me a review copy of the vanilla game and of the DLC for the purposes of doing this first impressions video. Now, the DLC and the game proper is within the grand strategy genre, it being placed in terms of time frame from either 1936 or 1939, depending on which startup option you go with, up until after the war. If I'm not mistaken, up until 1954, I think. I haven't actually finished a game proper with it. Had to spend a lot of time familiarizing myself with the vanilla version before even trying the DLC augmented version. For both of those, I focused mostly on Romania because I'm most familiar with the history of Romania within the respective world war, and I can more readily judge that element and how historical it is within its specific time frame. And to be honest, they did quite a lot of work and quite a lot of good work on it. Now, speaking of the other three countries, I took a look at them, and as far as I could see, while the developers tried to maintain their overall historical look and potential, they also balanced things out much like they did with Romania, so things don't get too crazy, so to say. They can't get crazy because the national focus trees have the option to do some rather insane shit, like, for example, Czechoslovakia can form an Entente faction of its own with Hungary, Yugoslavia and Romania, and then they can actually attack and dissolve Bulgaria and another country, I forget which one right now, which is kind of insane. And Romania gets even insaner. They can basically go puppet Bulgaria, puppet Yugoslavia, puppet Greece, and puppet Turkey. That's a hell of a lot of land. All these require basically very potent armies. I believe for Turkey it was about 750k in terms of military size, and with Bulgaria it being the first available in that sense for annexation or puppetization, as it were, was around 400 to 450k. So pulling off German style crazy stuff is possible, but you have to be very good at it to manage it. The DLC is quite direct in telling you that more often than not it'll either be death, i.e. destruction of your country / faction, or dishonor, choosing to fight with or fight alongside someone who would at a moment's notice annex you or completely wipe you off the face of the planet, basically. Like, for example, with Romania you can choose to side with Germany or the Soviet Union, even with both the Soviets and the Germans doing some rather nasty shit to Romania before they switched sides one time and switched sides the other time. It's an entire story. But yeah, I'm gonna cut the waffling right now and get to showing a wee bit, because there's not much to say in the options. It's basically the same as with the vanilla version. There wasn't much really done besides visual tweaks to the respective four nations mentioned and a couple of mechanics tweaks that affect all factions, and I believe conversion and an improvement of the puppet / licensing system a bit, because before it was a bit harder to actually get things going, especially as one of those four countries. Now, Actually, I'll go with one of the saves first, because it would be easier. I did play a wee bit with the polls just to see how things get crazy with them. And to be honest, they're quite crazy. If you haven't played the vanilla version, yikes. Okay, let's go with this one. Just to get an idea how Romania starts, for example. Because things get quite crazy quite quickly. You can do a lot of changes now, unlike in the vanilla version where, for example, you couldn't choose to switch over from a not so much a democracy as a I'm gonna say more oligarchy in the sense, because Romania back then wasn't really that good in terms of democratics, to a institutional, well, a royal dictatorship in a sense. But you can then roll it back or you could not, depends on you. For example, if you wait until you get King Michael's coup, this goes completely out the window. But you can go this way and basically go full-on absolutist monarchy. The Balkan dominance options are quite nice indeed to have, especially these, because, ooh, baby. Oh, so much lovely stuff you can do, but as I said, you require quite a bit. So Greece and that. Okay, so 500k both those, and Bosphorus, yeah, 750k. That's right. So Puppet Bulgaria needs 400k, which you don't have to start with, which is understandable considering, but is one of the things you want to do quite quickly. And to do that, for anybody who's not played Hearts of Iron before, basically go here, go from limited conscription, well, actually from volunteer, which is the initial one, to limited conscription to get this much, and then start pumping out divisions ad nauseum as fast as possible, basically. I would actually go with the cheaper ones, which are cavalry, cheaper. Easier ones to build, not cheaper, because none of them are really that cheap. Cavalry, mountaineers, and armor divisions, because the infantry divisions take quite a bit longer to do. And time is pretty much of the essence. You want to get Bulgaria underneath your boot. Sorry for any Bulgarians out there. Before the war starts. Ideally speaking, you want to get Yugoslavia down as well, that quickly. I think that's why they put the whole secure Greece and divide Yugoslavia at the same requirement in terms of manpower, because to get 500k you're gonna be stretched pretty fucking thin, because yeah, getting 400k is gonna be fun in and of itself. With the amounts you have available, you're gonna get 400 and something k, but you will also get some as more of a secondary force once you puppet Bulgaria via absorbing some of their forces, you know? What else is there to say? Oh yeah, tech trees. Tech trees in of itself have been reworked massively, but realism has kind of taken a backseat to historical accuracy. Why do I say that? This is why. This I kind of get. It's a tankette. It was the best Romania had at the time. I think it was a Czechoslovakian tankette. This is also a Czechoslovakian design. This is the R35 French tank, if I'm not mistaken. This is a modernized R35, which technically speaking was supposed to be the tank destroyer version of this, rather than the Takam T60, but acceptable. But this I don't get. Why is the R43, which is a what most would know as a Panzerkampfwagen 35T, on the same level as late tier Shermans like Easy 8s, Panthers, what was the other one? The can't remember what the British one was. The there was the Cromwell up here and the upgrade version of the Cromwell higher up. I can't remember exactly the name, and the Centurion up here. And this thing just looks like, well, a T-34's bastard child with an R-35, to be honest, if you look at it. But the Marshalls, while they aren't exactly heavy tanks, they were quite deadly opponents. Though technically speaking, they were tank destroyers. Still, in terms of realism, not good, but historicity takes precedent here. This is kind of a weird one for me personally, because the 75mm Reshica model 1943 is a PAC 75 L48, if I'm not mistaken, which is in no way equal to something like what the Germans have, which was a PAC 121, no, PAC 12.8 centimeter. That's it. Because yeah, a 128mm shell is gonna do a hell of a lot more damage than a 75mm one, no matter how long the 75mm bore is gonna be. Because yeah, there was a German attempt to get a 75 L100 design for the Panther II, which, for those who played World of Tanks, is basically the comedy gun on the Panther 1. But that don't really work well. Even like that, it's basically a high velocity projectile. And with APC-BC, it's not gonna do much. If it was, for example, something like a APDS, though those are horrifically inaccurate, or APDS, APFSDS, that's it. Those would actually have secondary effects besides spalling, which would do nasty shit to the interior, but these are also very accurate, so yeah, pretty nice. The Air Force has got a lot of loving, quite a lot. The only nitpick I have here, from a historical point of view, is this. I believe there was a modernized ER-80 version that was supposed to be the upgrade, but the ER-190G, which is basically a licensed build version of the BF-190G, was, how should I put this, available in refined form before that prototype was available. Still, something that can be fixed with either a patch later on or something, possibly a mod, but that's basically a nitpick. Not much to say there. And everything else, the Navy is not much to look at. It only really has one specific type of destroyer, though technically speaking there should be two. The Murashist class, which is a late World War I design, which was kind of a bit modernized, and the King Ferdinand class, which was a 1936 design, which would have been good for, well, not 1936, I believe 1930, 1932, but tomato, close enough to 1936, you get the idea. Would have worked here. And they also get the Delfino class, which was a, again, World War I design. And the Requino, which I believe was based more on German submarines, but I'm not too sure about that. So overall, the Romanians have got a lot of historical stuff, though not necessarily realistic stuff, in their research tree. And either more realism will get put in by the developers later, or how should I put this? Either you don't, technically speaking, if you cared, either realism will get added in later, or there will be mods for that. Yeah, it kind of sounds a bit, how should I put this? Like I'm excusing them for doing that, but for example, tank tree for the Romanians really didn't have much to work with. They really don't have much in terms of late war armor. They had a lot of redesigned stuff or converted stuff, but not much in terms of actual designs besides the Marshal class. Oh, let's just say it in Romanian, the Marshalu class. Now, somebody like the Czechoslovaks, well, they're small, they're interesting, they have a much more balanced in terms of realism tech tree, though again they suffer from the Romanian syndrome, which is they don't really have much in the way of mechanized historical elements. The tanks though, yeah, everything you can imagine there's in here, including a late, well, technically it would be a late war, early 1950s design, which was a Skoda T50. For anybody who's played World of Tanks, yeah, that's a tier 10 medium Czechoslovakian tank. So yeah, designed here quite well. And quite realistically, considering this is where it's supposed to be, not over here. Though even this is kind of pushing it a bit, because if I'm not mistaken, that's not gonna be even a 57mm, that's gonna be a 47mm. And even if it's a squeezed board, it's not gonna do much. Over here, pretty much realistic, decently done. No options in terms of rockets, like for the Romanians, or late war anti-tank guns. Now looks like a pretty much 75mm. Interesting thing that they have the 47mm, which was also on their tanks for the most part, up here. Guess they can't get out of complete suspension of realism. The interesting part with these guys, at least in my opinion, is the fact they had biplanes so late, but at least in the game. Don't recall them having biplanes at the start of World War II, pardon, but besides the point. The stats themselves are not represented by what you see, it's basically here, because no matter what sort of biplane you were flying, 500 kilometers per hour on something that's also supposed to engage in combat and actually be armored in any way was not really possible. The drag coefficient on the pylons between the wings would have been horrific in any case. Navy is pretty much absent completely, as you would expect for the Czechoslovaks, and in terms of national focuses, this is probably one of the countries I'm gonna be playing in one of my Let's Plays of Hearts of Iron, because just look at this stuff. Holy hell. The amount of flexibility the Czechoslovaks have makes me bloody well jealous. I mean, how should I put this? This is basically fortifying your the surrounding areas with Germany and Poland, especially with Poland, considering what happens to them later on. But also they have quite an interesting option with this, the strategic decisions. They can appease Germany, they can trust the West. In historical terms, they trusted the West and it didn't really work well. Though I kind of am pissed that they have this here. So we have to trust the West to get extra research. As a Czechoslovak player, I would not recommend that. A Czechoslovakian faction player, that is. This is pretty late term and linked completely to democratics. At least you get most of them for, oh, you get them from either side, so works. The annoying really part is this and this, to be honest. Really, I have to trust the West to get nukes? Hoping modders, especially the ones with more familiarity with Czechoslovakia's history, get hammering that a wee bit, because otherwise this tree looks quite nice. Quite nice indeed. But I guess in a certain sense you can't really be technologically advanced and basically the leader and controller to a certain degree of certain countries. So you can either dissolve Hungary or... that's an option, an interesting one. I'm not doing it this. Oh boy, that's a war goal. That's gonna be fun. But yeah, the Czechoslovaks have a nice amount of flexibility in there. And them with the Romanians being the more bent over the barrel ones. The Yugoslavians do have their issues with the Italians, but to be honest, unless Romania and Bulgaria fall, you're not really going to be fighting a true two-front war. With Romania and Czechoslovakia, yeah, you're going to be in an interesting position, so to say, if you don't play your cards right. The Yugoslavians have an interesting position in terms of should really annex that. Interesting position in terms of unity, which is catastrophic, really. Again, pardon my English, but damn, 30%. If Romania decides to sponsor a revolt, this is pretty much hopeless, for example. But they do have something to regain some of that lost unity. If I'm not mistaken, plus unity, political power. That's also good. They got a lot of options, that much I will say. With these guys I forgot to actually check the naval tree. They have a couple of destroyers and a couple of submarines, so a bit better than Romania, to be honest. Kind of surprising considering how much coastline they have. I mean, with 3 ports, you'd expect something. This is also a pretty big problem to have to handle. You need to get these guys quickly underfoot or things will go bad, because the Italians having a foothold over there, when they also will start poking you, is bad. Let's actually see if there's anything in that respect. Okay, over there, no. Quite a lot of nice stuff. This I really don't like. You should have a more nationalistic bent to it, because this way it just looks... yeah, this one's a wee bit of a dud, to be honest. Way too bit of a dud. Let's see also the tech trees, just to be a quick little dude. Really did not know about these tanks. The Igman kind of looks like T-54, I think, with a smaller gun, which is kind of odd. Could that be a 90mm? No clue, but these Franken tanks, so to say, are more or less historical by what I've checked, because at least they tried to design them to get a paper design going, which is better than having basically like modern tank, modern war. Oh boy. Not much in terms of weapon systems though. Here you do have quite a bit of lovely stuff. Now I'll be wrapping this up mostly because I'm starting to get a frog that's not going away, as you kind of can tell. And to be frank, most of the stuff that's kind of important to verify can be verified on either via the wiki or probably the feature set or in-game screenshots, because you really just need to know the focus trees, to a certain degree the tech trees, and that's about it. Because really the real important part of this DLC is the focus trees, because those being balanced both in terms of historical way and a fun way is critical. And for 10 euros, 10 US dollars, or whatever it is in GBP, they did it quite well. They did it very well, actually. And to be honest, the little details here and there that they managed to pull off is remarkable. I mean, for example, I don't think I actually shown it, but for example, when you click a unit or a division from one of these 4 countries, now you're greeted with actual historical, to a certain degree, replies in the respective tongue. Let's actually see. Understood. Adunarea means something to the kin of reforming formations and moving out. Attenzione, attention, and so on. And everything's done quite well. To be honest, versus Hearts of Iron 3's version of Romania, as I did actually manage to play that a couple of times on a friend's account, this is leagues better for the Romanians, to a certain degree for the Hungarians, to a large degree for the Yugoslavians, and I'm not even gonna dream what you can pull with the Czechoslovakians. They also have, I mean, that T50, oh boy. I mean, yeah, it isn't reflected in the actual stats of the tank, but still, just seeing that thing rumbling around would be fun. And yes, the units are mostly represented in realistic terms. I mean, for example, if you have a... let me just see. Well, light tank 3 is not really accurate, but for example, a 122mm MO3, it is more or less accurate to what's shown here. Kind of would have wished the 122mm M103, which technically is one of the Marshall prototypes, would actually show a Marshall, but oh well. Also the Takam R1 isn't shown correct either, but hey, it's good enough for what it is, and it is a $10, €10 DLC. The reworks are nice, and if you're not too much of a fan of the current state of the Romanians, Czechoslovakians, Yugoslavians, and Hungarians, yeah, this DLC is something well taking a look at seriously. If you're into Hearts of Iron but really don't mind these, because yeah, mods, we can fix that, we can fix this, oh, this improves that, this improves this. The mod itself adds in a couple of extra mechanics, like for example licensing, and especially licensing within the puppet how about this, the puppet master sort of relationship. And they also add in military conversions for units, which is also quite an interesting little feature. So it's an option to keep the DLC in mind for when it's on sale. Like for example, They usually bundle them up pretty quickly, in like 6 or 7 months at most, with other DLCs or with the base game. There's something to keep in mind. If you have no interest in Hearts of Iron 4, or yeah, this DLC won't really change much. In any case, that's just my first impressions. Thank you for watching, and until next time, buff the